On 15th November, Zimbabwean soldiers took over the headquarters of the state broadcaster, ZBC, and blocked access to government offices. But the army denied that a military coup was going on.
Comrade R.G. Mugabe and his family are safe and sound, and their security is guaranteed. We are only targeting criminals around him who are committing crimes that are causing social and economic suffering in the country in order to bring them to justice.
However, the Zimbabwean army action was not accepted as anything short of coup by others, including Mugabe's opponents. A leading opposition figure, Tendai Biti, described the military takeover of the country's capital as a coup.
Well, if it fluffs like a duck, twaddles like a duck, then it's a duck. This is a coup. There's no question about that. So we condemn the extra legal extraction of power from an elected civilian authority.
After taking over the national TV station, an army spokesman said President Robert Mugabe, who leads the ruling ZANU-PF party, is safe. But as yet there is no official word from the government or the Mugabe family as to their whereabouts. South African President Jacob Zuma said that he talked to his close ally Mugabe, who told him he is safe but confined to his house. The unfolding crisis started on November 8th with President Mugabe's sacking of Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa amid a row over the 93-year-old president's successor. The ruling party, ZANU-PF, then expelled Mr. Mnangagwa from the party. Mr. Mugabe called his former deputy a conspirator and warned that he was planning to purge others in the party. First Lady Grace Mugabe is said to be eyeing the vice presidency after President Mugabe sacked Emmerson Mnangagwa and ultimately replaced her husband as the leader of the country. Emmerson Mnangagwa rejected his dismissal and vowed to return home to fight for democracy, as he revealed he had fled the country after being sacked and labelled a traitor. Then the army announced that it sided with the deposed vice president. Zimbabwe military chief general Constantino Chiwenga said that the army was prepared to act to end purges within Mr. Mugabe's ZANU-PF party.
We must remind those behind the current treacherous shenanigans that when it comes to matters of protecting our revolution, the military will not hesitate to step in.
The crisis that led to the coup in Zimbabwe is related to a long-held political feud among the ruling ZANU-PF party. The ZANU-PF party is a party that ruled Zimbabwe from its independence in 1980 to the present. Robert Mugabe was also leader of the party and of the country, putting Mugabe at the centre of either of the success or the failure of the country from its inception as a modern state to these days.
Will never accept it.
Robert Mugabe is one of the longest-serving African rulers. Trained as a teacher, he spent 11 years as a political prisoner under Ian Smith's Rhodesian government. He rose to lead the Zimbabwe African National Union movement and was one of the key negotiators in the 1979 Lancaster House Agreement, which led to the creation of a fully democratic Zimbabwe. Elected Prime Minister and later President, he embraced conciliation with the country's white minority, but sidelined his rivals through politics and force. Beginning in 2000, he encouraged the takeover of white-owned commercial farms, leading to economic collapse and runaway inflation. After a disputed election in 2009, he reluctantly agreed to share some power with the rival movement for democratic change. After a 2008 election marred by violence, Mugabe was pressured by his regional allies to form an inclusive government with the MDC leader, Morgan Tsvangirai, as vice president. Robert Mugabe is a paradox in this current situation because he is the genesis of multiple crises that affect Zimbabwe, and in particular in terms of his factionism within ZANU-PF. But he is also the glue that keeps ZANU-PF together. And there was a great fear for a long time that once he exits the political scene, that ZANU will struggle to keep it together. Indeed, many analysts and commentators warned that divisions within the party were so deep that the party would eventually start turning in on itself. Mugabe has no obvious anointed successor, making it unclear which direction the country would take after its only post-independence leader dies or finally loses an election. It is this uncertainty that begat the very crisis that led to the unfolding events in the country. Grace Mugabe recently accused senior figures in his ruling ZANU-PF of dividing the party by manoeuvring to replace the Zimbabwean leader, and called on them to let him finish his job. She particularly attacked Vice President Joyce Mujuru, Mugabe's deputy for the last 10 years, and a front-runner to succeed the party leadership. The First Lady accused Mujuru of plotting to oust Mugabe at a party congress. One ZANU-PF Politburo member once said that Mugabe, who has always kept rivals guessing on his next move, could step down once he had secured a final 5-year term in 2018, by which time he will be 94, to make way for his wife. But now it seems that before he let his preferential successor replace him, the army removed Mugabe. The atmosphere in Harare remained tense today, with army units blocking off roads and urging people to stay in their homes. The military has called for the full cooperation of Zimbabwe's security forces for the good of the country, and is threatening an appropriate response to any provocations. With the tensions rising and growing fears that war could break out in Zimbabwe, major world powers have called for a peaceful resolution. But now the question is, how the military pacify the country? Would the country be ruled by the army, or is there a chance for Mugabe to reinstate, or is there a chance for another civilian leader to take power again?